Villains counterattack, the mystery of the wealthy. Chapter 1. The night was like ink, and the Suh family's villa was brightly lit, but it exuded a suffocating coldness. The moment the protagonist Lin Ying crawled out from under her eldest brother's bed, her heart almost jumped out of her chest. She looked up and met her eyes, which were as deep as the night sky. What are you doing here? Su Jian frowned slightly, his tone was calm but with an unquestionable majesty. Lin Ying lowered her head shyly, but her voice was surprisingly soft. I want to surprise you. Su Jian's eyebrows furrowed slightly, his intuition was wrong. Lin Ying's smile was obviously sweet, but it had a sharpness that made people feel chills in their hearts. Lin Ying quickly tidied up her dress and lightly got out from under the bed. She secretly calculated in her heart, tonight, she wants her brother to completely believe that she is well-intentioned, and then quietly let him fall into her trap. However, she didn't notice that deep in the shadows, a pair of emerald green eyes were quietly watching all this. This is Suh Furong, the second lady of the Suh family. Her curiosity is stronger than anyone else, and it is these eyes that will push Lin Ying's plan in an unexpected direction. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 2. Su Jian withdrew his gaze and said in a cold tone, "You go wash up first, the dinner party is about to start." Lin Ying nodded, but secretly muttered in her heart, why is this eldest brother so elusive every time? When she was washing, she kept recalling her original body's past plans, and secretly laughed in her heart, today, I want to do a completely different performance from my original body. At the dinner, Lin Ying sat at the Suh family's table and smiled at the guests. She pretended to be innocent, which made everyone look at her with admiration. At this moment, a strange man walked into the hall, and his tall figure and elegant temperament took everyone's breath away. His name is Zai Jingchen, a business giant from afar with countless resources. Lin Ying felt a strong threat, and at the same time ignited curiosity. This person seemed to be more than just an outsider. His eyes swept over Lin Ying, and instantly landed on the ring in her hand that trembled inadvertently. This. Is it yours? His tone was calm but provocative. Lin Ying replied with a smile, oh, this is an old thing passed down from the family. A strange light flashed in Zai Jingchen's eyes, he seemed to see through something, and it seemed as if he didn't see anything. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 3. After the dinner, Su Jian walked to the study alone and tapped his fingers on the table. Lin Ying followed, pretending to tug at the corner of her skirt inadvertently, and asked softly, Big brother, is there anything uncomfortable about today's banquet? Su Jian raised his eyes sharp, don't always revolve around me. Lin Ying's heart tightened, but she still kept a smile on her face, and she whispered, I just care about you. There was a sudden knock on the door of the study, interrupting the conversation between the two. Standing outside the door was Suh Furong, holding a thick photo album in her hand, with uncontrollable curiosity in her tone, there are secrets of your family in it. Lin Ying's heart sank suddenly, what is hidden in this photo album? Will her plan be exposed? Su Jian raised his eyebrows, his eyes as sharp as ice blades, let me see. Suh Furong slowly opened the photo album, and what came into view were unfamiliar and familiar photos. Lin Ying's past, the secret she thought had been buried without a trace, has now been turned out. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 4. The photos in the album reveal not only Lin Ying's past, but also the crimes of the original body. Lin Ying gritted her teeth secretly, I must find a way to shift my focus. She coughed lightly and pointed to a painting in the corner, this painting is also very peculiar, right? It is said that the Suh family's family motto is hidden behind it. Su Jian glanced at it, his eyebrows furrowed slightly, but he did not immediately expose Lin Ying. Lin Ying took the opportunity to bring out various details, draw attention to the painting, and said in a sweet tone, the family story is too long, I'm afraid you will get tired of listening to it. At this moment, Zai Jingchen suddenly appeared at the door of the study, and his cold eyes swept towards Lin Ying, I think this is not a simple family secret. Lin Ying's heart trembled, this man seemed to know more than her, she couldn't help but start calculating how to save her life next, and even reversed the situation into her own hands. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 5. In the dead of night, in the courtyard of the Suh family, moonlight fell on the intricately carved stone path. Lin Ying quietly walked out of the study, her steps were light, as if she was one with the night. However, Su Jian and Zai Jingchen had quietly followed. Their eyes were fixed on Lin Ying's every move, and every slight movement could reveal the secrets in her heart. Lin Ying walked to the rockery, stopped suddenly, she took out a small golden pendant and whispered a few ancient charms. In an instant, the night wind howled, and light blue light and shadow appeared in the courtyard, dancing like a ghost. Su Jian frowned slightly, and said secretly in his heart, "This kid is really extraordinary." Zai Jingchen's eyes changed, and he said coldly, "Her power is far deeper than we imagined." The corners of Lin Ying's mouth rose slightly, and for the first time, she felt an unprecedented stimulation. She was no longer just a passive original body, but Lin Ying who really mastered the situation. Chapter 6. Lin Ying waved the pendant in the courtyard, and the blue light and shadow slowly circled around her wrist, dancing as if she had her own consciousness. The night wind stirred her hair, like an ancient whisper in her ear. Su Jian squatted on the stone steps beside him, his eyes were cold, and his fingers were clenched into fists. Who is she? Why does it feel deeper and more unfathomable than we think? Zai Jingchen stood not far away, motionless like a sculpture, his face was slightly cold, and a trace of thought flashed in his eyes. The power she wields is not just magic or subterfuge, she knows how to control the intertwining of the mind and fate. This means that she may rewrite everyone's path. Lin Ying noticed the eyes of the two and smiled slightly, her voice low but clear, "Are you looking at me? I don't mind." Under the moonlight, her eyes were like a mirror, reflecting the secrets of the Su family's past and the fog of the future. Her every step was strategic, and her every breath was calculated. At this moment, she was no longer the adopted son of the original body who only knew how to be a demon, but a chess player who could make the world of wealthy families upside down. Chapter 7. The next day, the courtyard of the Su family in the morning was unusually quiet, and there was dew hanging on the flowers and plants. Lin Ying was wearing a lilac dress, stepping on fine steps, and walked towards Su Jian's study. She silently thought to herself, "Today, I want my eldest brother to believe in me completely and observe his every reaction." Su Jian was flipping through the documents, his brows furrowed slightly, as if he was worried. He raised his eyes and saw Lin Ying, his voice was low, "Can you explain what happened last night?" Lin Ying yawned slightly, and her voice was soft, "I just played with antiquities casually, but I didn't expect it will scare the big brother." Su Jian stared at her, his eyes like steel. "You always hide your true intentions." A hint of surprise flashed in Lin Ying's heart. This means that the original body's past evil has planted a crack of trust, and she only needs a little guidance to completely control the situation. The study door was knocked again, and Su Furong's voice came, "Someone is looking for you, Lin Ying." Lin Ying turned her head and saw a woman with long hair like ink and a cold temperament walking into the study. Her name was Condensation Shui, from a mysterious family in the north, with a sense of coercion in her eyes that could not be ignored. "What are you doing here?" Lin Ying asked with a smile. Condensation Shui said lightly, "The pendant in your hand is related to our family, I want to see if you are qualified to control it." Lin Ying's heart trembled slightly, but then she calmed down, she knew that this was another test, maybe more tricky than the eldest brother and Zai Jingchen. Chapter 8. Condensation Snow looked around, his eyes fixed on every painting and every decoration, as if there were countless clues hidden in this study. Lin Ying lowered her voice, "This is just an ordinary study at home, nothing special." Condensation Shui smiled slightly, with a chill, "Do you think I will easily believe your words?" Su Jian was silent on the side, he had already begun to realize that Lin Ying was not just an ordinary adopted son, she seemed to have countless secrets and powers hidden behind her. Zai Jingchen stepped forward, his voice calm but threatening, "Lin Ying, if you plan to hide it, you'd better think twice." Lin Ying pursed her lips slightly, and a glimmer of light flashed in her eyes. She knew that today's conversation was not only a family struggle, but also her first challenge to fate. Condensation Shui reached out and gently touched the pendant, and the blue light and shadow instantly spread, illuminating the entire study. Surprise flashed in her eyes, this power. So strong. Lin Ying looked up and smiled, her tone soft, "Do you want to see the real me too?" In an instant, the light of the pendant enveloped the entire study, and Su Jian, Zai Jingchen and Condensation Shui all felt an invisible oppression, as if they were pulled into an inescapable mystery. Chapter 9. After the light and shadow dissipated, the air in the study seemed to freeze. Condensing Shui's brows furrowed, she looked at Lin Ying with complicated emotions in her eyes. Your power can even change the trajectory of your destiny. This is not the original you. Lin Ying smiled, her tone low and seductive. The original me? I have never been the original me, and every time I travel back, I am reinventing myself. Su Jian's eyes sank, and he felt his heartbeat tighten. What the hell do you want? Lin Ying raised her hand gently, and the light and shadow on her fingertips rippled like water waves. I want freedom, and I want to see the true face of each of you. Zai Jingchen frowned slightly. He had already realized that Lin Ying was not only scheming, but the power she controlled in her hands could even influence the entire situation of the wealthy family. Condensation Shui was silent for a moment, then nodded slowly. Very good, we need to cooperate. But at the same time, I will also protect my bottom line. Lin Ying smiled secretly in her heart. At this moment, the struggle for the wealthy family has really begun, and she is already standing in the center of the chessboard. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 10. In the living room of the Sui family, the night banquet was held again. Lin Ying put on a long black silk dress and walked into the hall elegantly, with a silent momentum with every step. The guests looked at her with curiosity and awe in their eyes, but no one dared to step forward to disturb her. Su Jian and Zai Jingchen stood beside her, while Condensation Shui kept a distance to observe. The aura between these four people has formed a delicate balance. Lin Ying swept her eyes across the hall and said in a low voice, Tonight, we will not only participate in the banquet, but also observe everyone's weaknesses and secrets. In an instant, the lights flickered, and a mysterious man in black quietly entered, and his appearance pushed the entire banquet atmosphere to the brink of tension. Lin Ying's heart moved slightly. The appearance of this man in black was an unexpected variable in her plan. It was also an opportunity that could completely turn the situation around. Chapter 11. The figure of the man in black fluttered like a ghost in the banquet hall, and everyone's eyes were instantly attracted. Lin Ying raised her eyebrows slightly. She had already felt that there would be an accident tonight, and this game seemed to be more complicated than she expected. The man in black approached, took off his mask, and revealed a cold and unfamiliar face. Lin Ying, we have a deal to negotiate. Lin Ying's heart was shocked, and she secretly wondered in her heart, where did this person come from? How much does he know about me? Su Jian's eyebrows were slightly cold, and his voice was as cold as iron. Tell me clearly, who are you? The man in black smiled slightly, his tone was calm. You don't need to know who I am, you just need to know that the pendant in your hand affects the future of the entire family. Lin Ying's heart was shocked. She realized that her strength had been targeted by the outside world. This was not a simple family struggle, but the beginning of a bigger chess game. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 12. The banquet was held in a tense atmosphere. Lin Ying still smiled elegantly on the surface, but she had already begun to arrange the next move in her heart. She quietly asked Condensation Shui to get closer to her and whispered, I need you to help me observe the man in black. The sooner he knows his trump card, the better. Condensation Shui's eyes flashed, she nodded slightly, and then turned into a shadow to shuttle through the crowd. Zai Jingchen was on the other side, secretly following him, with a serious expression. No one is innocent in this game. Lin Ying's eyes swept over Su Jian, and she secretly calculated in her heart, the eldest brother's mind has always been deep, and tonight I must let him trust and remain vigilant at the same time, otherwise all plans may fall apart. Suddenly, the chandelier above the banquet shook for no reason, and a beam of light shone directly on Lin Ying, and blue light and shadow flashed around her, attracting all eyes. Her smile was as cold as ice and snow, and she was like a queen who controlled the entire situation. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 13. While the chandelier was shaking, the man in black quietly approached, holding an old parchment roll in his hand. Lin Ying, there are secrets that your family has hidden for many years. His voice was low and oppressive. Lin Ying took the scroll, smiled slightly, and secretly rejoiced in her heart. It turns out that tonight's surprise is not only prepared by me, but also by my opponent. She quietly used the power of the pendant, causing light and shadow to form a labyrinthine illusion indoors. The man in black paused slightly, and a hint of guard flashed in his eyes. It seems that you are stronger than I thought. The man in black said appreciatively, and at the same time, an imperceptible fear flashed in his eyes. Su Jian and Zai Jingchen approached from both sides, forming an encirclement. Lin Ying sneered in her heart, this is a game within a game arranged by her, not only to test the other party, but also to test her own strength. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 14. The night wind was blowing, the flower shadows in the courtyard swayed. Lin Ying unfolded the scroll, and what came into view was an ancient family genealogy. Hidden behind it was an amazing secret. It turned out that behind the Su family, there was an inextricable connection with a secret international consortium. Condensation Shui reminded in a low voice, this is not just a family secret, it involves far deeper forces than you think. Lin Ying's heart was cold, but then she showed a calm smile, this situation, for me, the more complicated the better. Su Jian frowned slightly, thinking to himself, Lin Ying is not just a snake and scorpion on the surface, she seems to know how to control every clue and every variable. Zai Jingchen's eyes flashed with determination, tonight, it is not only the infighting of the wealthy family, but also the key to the life and death of the family. Lin Ying put away her smile, her eyes like ice, let's see who can win this mystery. She silently calculated in her heart that every next step would determine the fate of the family and herself. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 15. The next morning, the Su family garden was filled with fog. Lin Ying walked alone in the winding path, her fingers caressing the pendant, and whispering, today, I want to make the chess game clearer. Condensation snow followed behind her, her eyes fixed on the surroundings. Someone is secretly observing you, you must be careful. Lin Ying smiled, I like to be monitored, at least it means that my existence has attracted attention. At this moment, a gust of wind swept up the fallen leaves on the ground, and Lin Ying's pendant emitted a faint light, and the light and shadow weaved strange patterns in the garden. In the distance, the man in black appeared again, his eyes were cold, he was holding the ancient scroll in his hand, obviously not planning to give up. Lin Ying secretly calculated in her heart, tonight's game will be an extreme test of strength and wisdom. She smiled slightly and decided to take the initiative. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 16. In the depths of the courtyard, under an ancient tree, Lin Ying set up an illusion formation with light and shadow intertwined, like water patterns. The man in black entered the formation and immediately lost his way, and even began to doubt his eyes. Condensation Shui reminded in a low voice, be careful, he may not only be a person, his strength. There are traces of ancient blood. Lin Ying laughed lightly, approaching step by step, her blue light and shadow wrapped around the man in black like a ghost. Su Jian and Zai Jingchen outflanked from both sides, forming a complete blockade. Lin Ying's eyes flashed with coldness, in this game, she had to control the ending with her own hands. The man in black sneered, unexpectedly, I met a real opponent. Lin Ying said softly, opponent? No, you are just my trial. In an instant, the light and shadow turned into thousands of fragments, trapping the man in black in an illusion, and a low echo echoed in the courtyard, as if fate was whispering quietly. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 17. The illusion dissipated, and the man in black fell on the stone path in the courtyard with disbelief and fear flashing in his eyes. Lin Ying leaned over, her tone calm but oppressive, this is just the beginning, I will reveal your secrets one by one. Condensation Shui approached, her eyes complicated, her power exceeded expectations. Su Jian frowned slightly, and said in a deep voice, Lin Ying, you are no longer just a member of the family, you are playing with your life. Zai Jingchen clenched his fists, his eyes flashing with determination, after tonight, no one can ignore her. Lin Ying smiled, she felt unprecedented strength and freedom, her plan was gradually taking shape, and her chess game had just begun. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 18. The man in black was forced to leave. Lin Ying returned to the study, smiling secretly in her heart, tonight's game is perfect. She took out the pendant, gently brushed the surface, and whispered, from now on, no one can interfere with my chess game. Su Jian approached and said in a low tone, what do you want? Lin Ying smiled slightly, her tone soft, big brother, all I want is freedom. And real power. Zai Jingchen was silent on the side, he understood that this former adopted son was completely different now. Condensation Shui pondered for a moment and whispered, if she controls the family and destiny, it will be an unprecedented storm. Lin Ying raised her head slightly, her eyes twinkling like stars, let it come, I'm ready. underscore 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 un. Chapter 19. A few days later, the So family welcomed a mysterious guest, a legend from the international financial circle named Hyun Yebai. His arrival made the atmosphere of the entire So family tense again. Lin Ying greeted her with an elegant smile, secretly thinking in her heart, tonight, it is necessary to guide the situation and master more whole cards. Hyun Yebai glanced at everyone, and finally his eyes fell on Lin Ying, and his tone was cold. The pendant in your hand. It deserves my attention. Lin Ying nodded lightly, her tone calm. If you want to know its secret, you may be able to cooperate with me. Su Jian frowned, thinking to himself, Lin Ying's chess game is far deeper than we imagined. Zai Jingchen's eyes flashed and he reminded in a low voice, be careful, her power may be difficult for even us to control. Lin Ying smiled slightly, and her eyes flashed, come on, let's see who can survive this storm of wealthy families. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 20. At night, the So family hall was brightly lit, and the banquet was like a battlefield. Lin Ying walked into it, blue light and shadow flashed around her, and everyone felt an invisible oppression. Hyun Yebai sat in the main seat, his eyes swept over everyone like a sharp sword, and finally stopped at Lin Ying. Your power. It's extraordinary. Lin Ying smiled, her tone soft but coercive, in this chess game, the real winner has not yet appeared. Su Jian stood beside her, frowning slightly, thinking to himself, Lin Ying, from an adopted son to a chess player, this transformation has exceeded everyone's expectations. Zai Jingchen and Condensation Shui looked at each other, and complex emotions flashed in their eyes. Tonight's game had just begun, and Lin Ying was undoubtedly the center of the entire chessboard. Chapter 21. The So family in the early morning was still shrouded in a faint mist. Lin Ying walked alone on the corridor, stroking the pendant with her fingers, secretly thinking about tonight's plan. Condensation Shui quietly followed behind her and said in a low voice, Hyun Yebai may make a move tonight, you must be careful with every step. Lin Ying smiled, a hint of chill flashed in her eyes, the more dangerous the game, the more worthwhile it is to challenge. Her steps stepped on the stone bricks of the promenade, as if every step was driving the flow of air, and the slight sound of the wind seemed to whisper in her ear, reminding her that there were more variables ahead than she had imagined. In the courtyard, the traces left by the man in black were faintly visible. This was Lin Ying's first victory, but she knew that the real challenge had just begun. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 22. The dinner was held again in the So family hall, and Hyun Yebai sat on the main seat, his eyes swept over every guest like a sharp sword. Lin Ying wore a dark purple evening dress and walked in elegantly, with light and shadow flowing around her, like a labyrinth woven by the night. Su Jian stood beside her, his eyebrows slightly locked, and he thought to himself, Lin Ying's plan is extremely accurate every time, but what does she want to control? Zai Jingchen observed secretly from a distance and whispered to Condensation Shui, this situation is not just a struggle for the wealthy, she has already grasped the eyes of international forces. Lin Ying's smile was like an ice blade, elegant but full of murderous intent. She thought to herself, tonight, not only to test Hyun Yebai, but also to make the eldest brother trust her completely, but also have to rely on her. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 23. During the banquet, Lin Ying quietly asked Condensation Snow to guide the light and shadow to the location where Hyun Yebai was, making it impossible for her to detect her movements. Hyun Yebai's eyes flickered slightly under the light and shadow, as if he noticed something strange, but he still remained calm. Lin Ying gently stroked the pendant and whispered, let the truth slowly emerge. Suddenly, news came, there was a change within the So family, the accounts of some family members were mysteriously locked, and the flow of funds was unknown. Su Jian frowned and said in a low voice, someone is operating secretly, Lin Ying, this chess game is more complicated than you think. Lin Ying smiled slightly, she knew that this was the best test, to take the lead in the chaos. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 24. Deep in the courtyard, Lin Ying and Zai Jingchen had a short meeting. The situation is extremely complicated this time. Zai Jingchen said in a low voice, his eyes were serious, and his fingers were clenched into fists. Lin Ying smiled lightly, complexity is interesting, who can survive in the puzzle is the real winner. Her plan gradually unfolded, and light and shadow formed strange patterns in the courtyard, like a maze. Suddenly, a black shadow flashed from the bushes, and Su Jian instantly grabbed it, but the other party mysteriously disappeared, leaving only a pale blue light and shadow. Lin Ying's eyes flashed. Tonight's game was far more exciting and dangerous than she expected. Chapter 25. The night was like ink, and Lin Ying was flipping through the ancient genealogy in the study, trying to find more secrets about the pendant. Condensation Snow leaned against the window, her tone low. This power is not just magic, it is bound by blood and contract behind it. Lin Ying caressed the pendant and smiled. I like the power of restraint, which means challenges. The door of the study was knocked gently, and Helian walked in coldly, looking directly at Lin Ying, his tone calm but coercive. The power you control may change the entire pattern of wealthy families. Lin Ying responded calmly, if you want to challenge, I don't mind. At this moment, the auras of the two collided with each other, like the calm before the storm, and the undercurrent was turbulent. Chapter 26. Early the next morning, Lin Ying and Su Jian inspected the family business together and found that the capital changes were more complex than expected. Someone deliberately provokes internal conflicts. Su Jian said in a deep voice, his brows furrowed. Lin Ying smiled, her eyes twinkling like stars. In that case, we must make the situation clearer, who is a friend and who is an enemy, at a glance. She quietly arranged surveillance methods, and light and shadow roamed around the house, silently capturing every abnormal movement. Zai Jingchen stood silently aside, secretly calculating in his heart, Lin Ying's ability has surpassed common sense, and tonight's situation will become a real decisive battle for the giants. Chapter 27. At night, the Su family held a banquet again, with bright lights and clouds of guests. Lin Ying wore a black evening dress and walked elegantly into the hall, the pendant flickering with light and shadow, and her very presence was the focus. Helian Yebai sat on the main seat, his eyes swept over everyone like a sharp sword, and finally stopped on Lin Ying, and said coldly, tonight, I want to see your trump cards clearly. Lin Ying smiled slightly and whispered, whole card? What I have in my hand is not just a whole card. Su Jian stood beside her, his eyes were complicated, and he thought to himself, Lin Ying is no longer just an adopted son, she is the core of the entire chess game. Chapter 28. In the middle of the banquet, a loud noise suddenly sounded, and the lights in the Su family's hall flickered uncertainly. The black shadow slipped from the ceiling, and Helian Yebai quickly responded, but was still forced to retreat a few steps. Lin Ying's eyes flashed, and the light and shadow of the pendant instantly spread, turning into an invisible barrier to protect everyone from harm. Condensation Shui approached and whispered, her power is beyond our understanding. Zai Jingchen frowned secretly, warning in his heart, Lin Ying, this struggle for the wealthy family has evolved into an unimaginable life and death puzzle. Chapter 29. After the loud noise, the man in black was trapped in the light and shadow, unable to move. Lin Ying smiled and whispered, this is just the beginning, the real chess game is still to come. Su Jian frowned, and his tone was cold, your strength is unpredictable even to us. Zai Jingchen said in a deep voice, this kind of situation, if you are not careful, even the family may be dragged into the abyss. Lin Ying's eyes flashed with determination, it's okay, I'm not afraid. In the courtyard, the moonlight shone down, reflecting Lin Ying's figure, like a queen who truly controls her destiny. Chapter 30. A few days later, the Su family faced an even greater challenge. A mysterious force from afar sent a messenger to target the pendant in Lin Ying's hand. Lin Ying stood in the center of the hall and smiled at the visitor, you came just in time, this game is lacking a real challenger. Helian Yebai, Condensation Shui and Zai Jingchen stood beside her, the atmosphere was tense, the four forces collided in the hall, and the undercurrent was turbulent. Lin Ying meditated in her heart, this struggle for the wealthy family is not only a family infighting, but also an extreme test of fate, power, and strength. She raised her hand, and the light of the pendant burst out, enveloping the entire hall, reflecting everyone's true face. The chess game has just begun, and I am the real controller of this game. Lin Ying smiled secretly in her heart, the storm ahead would be guided by her. Chapter 31. As night fell, the Su family courtyard was shrouded in a faint mist. Lin Ying stood by the fountain, the pendant emitting a light blue light, pulling her shadow slender and weird. Condensation Shui whispered in her ear, tonight's game is by no means ordinary, you have to be careful. Lin Ying chuckled, the more dangerous it is, the more worthy of the challenge. In the distance, the black shadow floated like a ghost, and Helian Yebai and Zai Jingchen each set up their own defense lines. Lin Ying meditated in her heart, tonight's variables may be more complex than all the situations in the past. The light and shadow suddenly fluctuated, and an invisible door appeared in the courtyard, as if leading to an unknown space. Lin Ying raised her hand and smiled slightly, this is the stage I really want to see. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 32. In the other space, the scene was eerie, and blue light and shadow appeared in the night, like water waves and smoke. Lin Ying stepped into it, and every step under her feet triggered different illusions, reflecting the secrets deep in her heart. Condensation Snow followed closely behind and whispered, this is not just an illusion, but also a trial. Helian Yebai and Zai Jingchen stood outside, they felt an irresistible sense of oppression, as if the entire courtyard was controlled by Lin Ying. Lin Ying's eyes were like stars, and she smiled secretly in her heart, the real chess game has just begun, and I am the only controller of this game. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 33. In the depths of another space, Lin Ying met a mysterious man with blood-colored light in his eyes, who called himself the Phantom Messenger. The power in your hands has reached the edge of fate. The Phantom Messenger said in a low voice. Lin Ying smiled, edge? It is the edge that makes it possible to rewrite everything. The man's voice was like the wind, penetrating her consciousness, if you can't control it, you will be swallowed up by power. Lin Ying's eyes were firm, and the light of the pendant spread, like a blue moon, reflecting her cold and determined silhouette. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 34. The illusion in the other space suddenly shattered, and Lin Ying found herself in the ancient library of the Su family, with bookshelves towering into the clouds and each book emitting a faint light. Condensation Shui reminded in a low voice, your family's deepest secret is hidden here. Lin Ying opened an ancient book and found that the Su family's wealthy bloodline was related to ancient contracts and supernatural families, and the pendant was the key. Helian Yebai's eyes flashed with surprise, I didn't expect that she would hold so many secrets. Lin Ying smiled slightly, the more secrets, the more exciting the chess game. At this moment, she felt unprecedented strength and freedom, and she also realized that the next opponent was more difficult than she imagined. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 35. Late at night, a secret meeting was held again in the Su family hall, and the guests were all important families and business giants. Lin Ying stepped into the hall, the pendant light flickered, and the aura was oppressive to make everyone's heart flutter slightly. Helian Yebai said lightly, tonight, we have to decide the future direction of the family. Lin Ying lowered her eyebrows and smiled, in that case, let's spread the truth. In the fluctuations of light and shadow, books and documents emerged in the air, exposing the undercurrents within the Su family, external conspiracies and ancient contracts that had been buried. Condensation Shui and Zai Jingchen looked at each other, and realized at the same time in their hearts, Lin Ying has completely controlled this giant game. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 36. Suddenly, the lights in the banquet hall went out and instantly fell into darkness. The light of the Lin Ying pendant automatically spreads, forming a blue light curtain that reflects everyone's true face. Helian Yebai frowned, feeling the coercion of his ability, she controlled the entire field. The black shadow slid down from the ceiling, and it was an assassin sent from afar, intent on snatching the pendant. Lin Ying's eyes were cold, and the light and shadow turned into 1,000 phantoms, trapping the black shadows like blades, and the echoes in the courtyard were low and roaring, as if fate was whispering. underscore 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 un. Chapter 37. The assassin was trapped. Lin Ying leaned over and whispered, "Your fate is decided by me." Helian Yebai and Zai Jingchen stood on both sides, thinking to themselves, Lin Ying's power has surpassed common sense, and no opponent can exert all his strength in front of her. Condensation Shui approached gently and said in a low voice, "She is no longer just an adopted son of the family, but the controller of fate." Lin Ying looked up and smiled like ice and snow. The real chess game has just begun. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 38. The next day, the Su family welcomes more mysterious visitors, including representatives of the old contract family. Lin Ying wore a long dark blue dress and walked elegantly into the hall, her pendant shining brightly, attracting all eyes. Helian Yebai said in a deep voice, "Her strength. Even I can't measure it." Lin Ying smiled slightly, "Estimate? For me, control is the real game." In the courtyard, light and shadow spread like water waves, reflecting the secrets and fears deep in everyone's heart. At this moment, the infighting between wealthy families has evolved into a confrontation of strength, intrigue, and fate, with Lin Ying being the only center. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 39. In the study of the Su family, Lin Ying flipped through ancient books and discovered the true secret of the pendant. It can rewrite the family bloodline contract and affect the fate trajectory of family members. Condensation Shui whispered, "The person who masters it is the true master of the family." Lin Ying raised her hand to caress the pendant and smiled, "Then, I will write the future of the family." Zai Jingchen said in a deep voice, "This means that you are not just a chess player, but a manipulator of the entire chess game." Lin Ying's eyes were firm, and she secretly thought in her heart, the real storm is still to come, and she is already ready to meet all challenges. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 40. At night, the Su family hall was once again shrouded in blue light and shadow. Lin Ying stood in the center, and the light of the pendant spread like a moon wheel. Helian Yebai, Lang Ningxiu, Zai Jingchen, and all the family representatives all looked at her, and none of them dared to ignore her existence. Lin Ying smiled and said in a low tone, "The chess game has been rolled out. Who can survive in this storm of giants depends on their own choices." In the flow of light and shadow, ancient contracts, family secrets, and future destinies overlap like a movie, and everyone feels an unprecedented oppression and stimulation. Lin Ying's eyes flashed. She knew that the real struggle for the wealthy had just begun, and she was the only one in control. Chapter 41. Late at night, the Su family hall was shrouded in blue light and shadow, and Lin Ying's shadow was stretched slender and eerie by the light, like a statue of a queen. Helian Yebai, Condensation Shui, Zai Jingchen, and the family representatives all stood with bated breath, their eyes flashing with complex emotions. Lin Ying raised her hand gently, the light waves emitted by the pendant spread like water ripples, her voice was low but oppressive, "Tonight, the last secret of the chess game will be revealed." The air seemed to freeze, and everyone felt an irresistible force, and their heartbeats and breathing quickened. At this moment, Lin Ying was no longer the adopted son she once had, she was the queen who controlled the entire situation, and she was the only traitor of fate. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 42. In the light and shadow, a transparent door slowly emerged, revealing the secrets and hidden conspiracies of the Su family over the past 100 years. Condensation Shui was surprised, "Here. It hides the deepest secret of the family." Lin Ying smiled slightly, and a light flashed in her eyes. The deeper the secret, the more exciting the chess game is, and the more worthy it is to control. Helian Yebai frowned and said in a low voice, "She really grasped the whole situation." Light and shadow turned into a labyrinthine illusion, reflecting everyone's heart and ambition. Lin Ying's smile was like an ice blade, both cold and unchallengeable. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 43. Suddenly, the alien space vibrated, and the light of the pendant exploded, reflecting the entire hall. The man in black, the assassin, and representatives of distant forces all showed up, intending to snatch the pendant and control the future of the Su family. Lin Ying raised her hand, and the blue light and shadow turned into invisible chains, trapping all enemies, and a low whistling sound echoed in the courtyard, like a whisper of fate. Zai Jingchen said coldly, It's no longer within our control. Lin Ying smiled, her voice soft but coercive, want to take it away? It's not that easy. At this moment, the infighting between the wealthy evolved into a final showdown of strength, wisdom, intrigue, and fate. Chapter 44. Under the chain of light and shadow, the enemy couldn't move. Lin Ying approached step by step, and the light of the pendant cut through the air like a knife blade. Condensation Shui reminded quietly, be careful, her power can even affect the bloodline. Lin Ying's eyes were like stars, and she whispered, the bloodline, contract, and destiny are all in my hands. Helian Yebai frowned, feeling unprecedented oppression. He thought to himself, Lin Ying is not just a chess player, she has become the core of the entire situation. Lin Ying smiled slightly, guiding the enemy into the maze of light and shadow step by step. Her plan had reached its final climax. Chapter 45. In the maze, the enemies were gradually trapped by light and shadow, unable to exert their power, while Lin Ying controlled the light and shadow and shuttled between them. The light of her pendant blends with the night, like a cold moon, reflecting everyone's secrets and fears. Helian Yebai walked closer slowly and said in a deep voice, Lin Ying, what do you want? Lin Ying laughed lightly, her tone low and determined, I want to control, not just the Sui family, but my own destiny. In the courtyard, light and shadow were like a flood, and the labyrinthine illusion made everyone's hearts shake, and Lin Ying's figure became the only undefeated existence. Chapter 46. The maze of light and shadow gradually converged, and the pendant in Lin Ying's hand flashed with the last blue light, completely sealing the enemy. Condensation Shui and Zai Jingchen stood silently aside, shocked in their hearts. Lin Ying's power has surpassed any common sense. Helian Yebai took a deep breath and said in a low voice, He is already the true master of the family. Lin Ying smiled, her eyes flashing, the future of the family will be written by me. The courtyard was silent, and the light and shadow dispersed, leaving only her cold but determined figure, like a queen who truly controls her destiny. Chapter 47. The next morning, the Sui family hall returned to calm, and the light of the pendant was still faintly flickering, symbolizing the existence of power. Lin Ying stood in the sun, looking at the courtyard. She had already controlled the situation in her heart, and all the undercurrents, conspiracies, and threats were under her control. Helian Yebai said in a deep voice, you will become a true legend of the family. Lin Ying smiled lightly, legend? No, I want to be the sole controller of the family. Zai Jingchen and Condensation Shui looked at each other, thinking to themselves, this former adopted son has now surpassed everyone's imagination and become the center of destiny. Chapter 48. The celebration was held inside the Sui family. Lin Ying stood in the center of the hall, the pendant light flashing, illuminating the faces of every family member. She whispered, from today onwards, the fate of the Sui family will no longer be determined by external forces, but will be controlled by ourselves. Helian Yebai nodded, Condensation Shui smiled slightly, and Zai Jingchen said in a deep voice, at this moment, the chess game of the wealthy is really over. Lin Ying's eyes flashed with determination and confidence, and she thought to herself, this is just the beginning, and the future game will be guided by her. Chapter 49. At night, the stars in the courtyard twinkled, and Lin Ying stood alone by the fountain, the light of the pendant in her hand flowing like water waves. She whispered, destiny, power, wealth. Everything is under my control. Condensation Shui quietly approached, her tone soft but appreciative, you are no longer an adopted son, but the real center of the family. Lin Ying smiled slightly, her eyes twinkling like stars, this is just the first step, the real challenge is still ahead. The night wind blew, and the pendant flickered as if whispering, this queen, she has mastered all the situation. underscore 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 un. Chapter 50. The morning light in the So family hall appeared. Lin Ying stood in the sun. The light and shadow flowed like water waves, reflecting her cold and firm silhouette. She raised her hand, and the pendant's light flashed with the last ray, reflecting the entire family, symbolizing that power and destiny were entirely in her hands. Helian Yebai, condensation Shui, Zai Jingchen, and all the family members understood. From today onwards, Lin Ying is the real master of the So family. Lin Ying smiled slightly, thinking to herself, the once vicious adopted son has been completely reshaped, and her chess game has only really begun. The moonlight shines down, the courtyard is quiet and solemn, and the light and shadow of the pendant are like the wheel of fortune, reflecting the infinite possibilities of this wealthy world, and Lin Ying is the only controller.